Hi, I'm Richard Maraj, Senior Minister at Unity of Phoenix Spiritual Center, and I want to thank you for visiting our website and for tuning in to today's message. If you feel inspired by today's talk, I really encourage you to make a donation by hitting that button below and making a contribution to this ministry. It'll allow us to continue these messages online and to do the great work we do here at Unity of Phoenix, which is to inspire people to live better lives. So thanks for tuning in, thanks for your support, and we hope to see you at a Sunday real soon.
Morning again, everyone. And a shout out to everybody who tunes in and watches us online. So there's this retired preacher, and he's riding his bicycle in town. And when he comes upon a little boy who's selling a lawnmower, and he says to the little guy, he says, "Hey, how much you selling that lawnmower for?" And the little guy says, "Well, just enough for me to buy a bicycle." And after a moment of consideration, the preacher says, "Hey, why don't we swap? I'll give you my bike and you give me the lawnmower." And he said, "Well, first, can I try it out?" And he tries it out, and it seems to be good. And he says, "Mister, you got a deal." And the preacher said, "Okay, but let me start the lawnmower and we'll see." And so he starts pulling the rope, and he pulls the rope, and nothing's happening. He's pulling in. It's getting harder. He's getting more frustrated. And then he calls the little boy over and says, "This lawnmower doesn't work. I can't get it started." And the little boy said, "Oh, no, it does work. You just have to swear at it, and it'll start for you. Just swear at it." And the preacher says, "I can't swear. I am a man of God. I have not said a cuss word since I became a Christian years ago. I can't even remember how to swear." The little boy smiles and says, "Just keep pulling that rope, and it'll all come back to you." All right. How many people have something in your life that's annoying you or ticking you off, frustrating you, causing you a little pain? Anybody have any things like that? So what if I told you that I could take that all away, anything that frustrates you, bothers you, annoys you in any way, I could remove it from your life instantly. If I could make everything you hate disappear, anything even in the world that you don't like disappear, how many people would accept it because you think it'd make your life easier, happier, and better? Anybody would take me up on that deal? Okay. You know, the thing is, as tempting as that sounds, as wonderful as it sounds, I really believe that removing all of the people we don't like, all the things that frustrate us or bother us, would actually not make our lives happier. In fact, I don't think our life would be as good without it. That I literally believe that we would be missing out opportunities for transformation, for growth, for expanding our awareness, our level of gratitude and joy without the things in our lives that press our buttons, that tick us off and frustrate us. I'm sorry to share this news, but I really believe the things that always work in our lives and the people that annoy us and frustrate us, that all of these things are actually a pathway to a deeper level of fulfillment and joy. Deeper levels of wisdom and understanding and insight, deeper levels of compassion and care. You know, we are in the final week of our 3-week series on Brené Brown's book, Braving the Wilderness. And really, all of our work is surrounded by the idea that it takes courage to live a meaningful life. It takes courage to live your best life. It takes courage to be compassionate. It takes courage to show up with the fullness of everything that you are. That courage is a requirement for every other virtue because it takes courage to have faith. It takes courage to believe. It takes courage to trust, courage to forgive, courage to let go. There isn't anything in life that doesn't require us courage to live it, to be it, and to demonstrate it. And the greatest thing that takes the most amount of courage for us is the courage to be vulnerable. Vulnerability scares us because it exposes us. You know, it can potentially embarrass us or have us be rejected. And the reason it scares us is because vulnerability is about letting down the walls, you know, letting down the pretenses, letting down our fears, and just being authentically who we are right where we are. You know, that courage to be vulnerable really is the pathway to more intimate, close relationships, to a deeper connection with ourselves, to a deeper connection with the divine. It is the pathway to the fulfillment and the kind of life that we're all seeking and looking for. So the fact is, life isn't easy. It does require courage. And the greatest journey of courage is balancing the thing we that is the most painful for us as humans beings, which is loneliness and isolation and feeling like we don't belong and don't fit in, to that journey of connection, to that journey of oneness, to that journey of belonging and being true and authentically who we really are. And those two things seem like they're mutually exclusive, that you either fit in and belong or you're true to yourself. Because sometimes when we're true to ourselves, sometimes we don't get accepted. And sometimes we want to be accepted so much we'll dance and please and say anything that pleases us, and we aren't always true to ourselves. But the truth is we can have both, a sense of belonging and care and acceptance and be appreciated for who we are and be true to who we are. Here's what she says true belonging really is. She says, it is about fitting in and being different. It is to fit in without losing who you are, being authentic, and not to isolate ourselves because we stand in our truth. You can actually stand alone and be true to yourself and still feel connected and still feel a sense of belonging. However, it requires the courage to be vulnerable. So today we're going to look at 3 tools that will help us continue to brave the wilderness to make that transition from isolation to connection, from not honoring ourselves to be absolutely true and authentically who we really are. And so the 3 points we're going to talk today are strong back, soft front, wild heart. Strong back, soft front, wild heart. And the lady, Brene Brown, got it from, her name is Joan Halifax, and she's actually a Buddhist teacher. And she and Brene were speaking at a big evening event, a huge conference. So they did sound check and stuff in the afternoon, and they were supposed to do some press stuff or interview stuff and meet and greet some people. And so Joan didn't want to go, and she said, I'm going to go to my room and rest. I'm going to go have some quiet time. And I suggest you do the same. And Brene's feeling bad because she's thinking that people are expecting to do some meet and greet. And here's what Joan said to her. She said, tonight we will exhale and teach. Now it's time to inhale. There is the in-breath and the out-breath. And it's easy to believe that we must exhale all the time without ever inhaling. But the inhale is absolutely essential if you want to continue to exhale. And I love that. I think it has so much wisdom on it, so many levels. I think she's talking in some ways about the difference between doing and being. And we think we have to exhale and do all the time, be available to everybody all the time. And the truth is sometimes we need to withdraw and just do some being. Sometimes we think it's always about the out or an activity, and sometimes we need to turn within and get to that quiet place. The place where we feel centered and more grounded and at peace, so then we can go out and do the things we're due. To be clear about why we're doing those things. So it's important to breathe in and breathe out and to take time to inhale. And so these 3 points are really based on time of quiet to reflect, to inhale, to really think about how we want to live. And so again, strong back, soft front, wild heart. Let's start with strong back. When you think of a strong back, it's really your back and your skeleton are really the framework upon which everything else rests that makes everything happen. And so we have to think about what will give us a strong back. What is the foundation? What are the guiding principles for my life? What are my values? What's important? What are my priorities? For us to live effectively, we have to have a strong back. We have to have clear guidelines of who we are, what is valuable and what is important to ourselves, and about how we show up in life. And so, there's a line, and I've mentioned it several times, and I didn't understand it as a kid, but I love it more and more. And that's Socrates' line when he said, the unexamined life is not worth living. First, I thought that was so negative. Not worth living, but what he's saying is life is so worth living, it behooves us to take time to examine how we're actually living it. To pause from time to time and say, is this the way I want to be living my life? Are these the things that are most valuable and important to me? And based on how I'm living my life, is that the trajectory I want my life to continue in? Where in my life am I living out of alignment? Where in my life am I compromising my soul? Where in my life am I not being the person I'm meant to be or doing the things I'm meant to do? that it's important to pause and examine our life and ask ourselves, what's going to make my back stronger? Is there a boundary that I've allowed to get too carried away that I need to reset and refocus? Is there something I need to clean up in my life and go make amends? Is there something I need to stop doing that I've been doing or start doing that I'm not doing? Are there some areas that I'm not accepting full responsibility for who I am? Like, what is one change that you would make in your life that would make your back stronger? That would get clear about who you are and how you want to show up and how you want to live in your life? What is one quality that would improve how you show up and how you relate to yourself and other people? What is it in your life that it's time to take a stand for? She gives an example of a pastor that was a friend of hers who was feeling a little bit of turmoil about some things not being expressed. And so she wrote an article in a conservative to moderate her spiritual community about her support for the LGBTQ community, for their rights and inclusion. And she got a lot of pushback. But this pastor felt like she had to take a stand. This is something she believed in and had to have a voice for it and share it. And even though she got pushback, she says she felt she did the right thing and wouldn't change it, even with the pushback. All of us need to get to a place to say, am I really living the life I want to live? And what is it that I'm not taking a stand for that I really need to? What way am I not showing up as authentically that I need to just shift and change and start to honor what's really going on inside of me? One of the things we need to take a stand for is about a sense of oneness and connection that we have with each other. There's an inextricable connection that we have with each other. That we're all created in the image and likeness of God, that there is a oneness of spirit and love that we all share, a connection of humanity that we all share, a connection of love that we all share. And she writes this: there is a connection, an inextricable connection, that spirit flows between us, and that is something that can never be broken. However, that truth and the belief in our oneness and connection is constantly questioned, tested, and repeatedly severed. And so that one of the things that we need to take a stand for is to ask ourselves, am I willing to hold true that we are all one and all connected, even when I don't like someone or don't agree or see eye to eye with them? That we need to take a stand, for our connectedness and not create more and more separation or this pattern of pushing, people away and creating distance. I want you to think of somebody you might be having a little conflict with. If you don't have someone, I have a couple of suggestions myself I could lend you. I'm just kidding, of course. So think of someone that you might be having a little challenge with. Close your eyes, take a deep breath. And I just want you to halfway say, this person is a child of God. Together. This person is a child of God. Take a deep breath. I send this person peace and love. Together. I send this person peace and love. Deep breath. I am connected and at one with this person. Together. I am connected and at one in this person. Deep breath. This person and I are one. Together. This person and I are one. Take a deep breath. And it's not an easy thing for when you don't like someone or someone may have done something that hurt you, but the alternative of pushing them away, pushing them out of your heart, will actually cause us more pain and difficulty. To have a strong back means to say, I'm committed to this principle, to this truth that we are one, that we are connected in love and compassion, connected at the soul level, and to demonstrate it. And this isn't about having lunch with them. This is not about being BFFs. This is about in your own heart and your mind, even if you don't ever chat with them, that in your heart that you hold that you're one. That even if I don't feel it in this moment, this is a child of God. That this person deserves love like I deserve love, and that we are connected at a soul level. And so that's the first thing, and it's not an easy thing. So it's to ask yourself the question, what is one thing that you could change or one thing you can make a stand for or that you would improve or some boundary that'll help you have a stronger back and the willingness to stand for the truth that we are one, even if it's just in our own mind towards anyone we're not agreeing with. Strong back, soft front. So when we feel hurt and offended, instead of having a soft front, we want to have an armored front, a hard front. We want to put up a wall. We get defensive, we shut down, we close off. Sometimes, life, you want to protect yourself when you feel vulnerable and hurt. Sometimes we don't act as nice or as caring or compassionately. Kind of reminds me of this mom who's making pancakes for her 2 kids. One's 9 and one's 5. And then she brought up some, and the kids are fighting over who gets this big pancake. Who's getting the biggest pancake? And they're arguing. One's 9, one's 5. And they're arguing about it. Who's getting it? And the mom says, what would Jesus do? You know what Jesus would do? Jesus would give his brother the bigger pancake. That's what Jesus would do. He'd be kind and give his brother the bigger pancake. So the mom leaves the room. The 9-year-old grabs a big pancake and says, you be Jesus. And so, okay. So, in case you're wondering, that's an example of not having a soft front. And so to have a soft front is about being compassionate and caring. It's about being vulnerable, and it's about being more open-hearted. And it's not always an easy thing, but it's an important thing. If we really want connection and want fulfillment and want more intimacy and not feeling isolated, we really need to have a soft front. I saw this Star Trek episode years ago, and it was this thing where they were trying to get to some of their crew that was being attacked, and there was a shield, this glass invisible shield, and they couldn't get through, and they couldn't figure it out. And then finally Spock said, he said to the captain, he said it's a shield of resistance, that we can't get there because we're so anxious and angry that it's creating resistance, and it's actually coming from us. So what we need to do is reduce our anxiety so it'll reduce the shield of resistance so we can actually move forward and do what we need to do. And so in a way, I think that's really cool that when we get angry at someone, our hearts are closed off, we actually need to take a deep breath and open our hearts so that shield of resistance can be lowered so we can interact in a healthier and better way. One of the best ways I think about softening, the times I think I'm softest, and I think for most people, I remember when I used to go baby cuddling at Homeward Bound, like holding a baby in your arms, I think softens everybody. The defenses are down, you're more caring, or more gentle, you're more aware, you're more kind. And so sometimes when there's that inclination to close off your heart and get hard and protective and aggressive and defensive, we need to lower that shield of resistance by opening our hearts or pretend like we're holding a baby so we can open ourselves to be a little more open and vulnerable. So my question is, where in your life can you soften up a bit? Where do you need to soften? What relationship could you be a little more softened in? Who at work or what at work can you be a little softer with? And in your self-care, how you treat you, how can you be a little softer in how you treat yourself? Susan Pinker wrote a book called Village Effect, how face-to-face contact can make us happier and healthier. One of the things about having a soft front is that it is calling us, she's saying that social interaction with people actually increases our health and the length of time that we live. Just being with people makes a difference. And she said, whether it's making eye contact, shaking their hand, giving them a hug or a high five, if you're just playing cards or meeting for coffee once a week, that being with people is an important thing. She said going to church is high on the list. Okay, I made that up, but I think it is. Yeah, and every week is the best. So here's what she says, though. Here's an interesting thing what she says. She says, neglecting close interaction with people who are important to you is at least as dangerous to your health as a pack of cigarettes, hypertension, and obesity. Isn't that interesting? Neglecting connection with the people that are important to us is vital. We are social, emotional beings. Being in the presence of someone, there's an exchange of energy. There's a linking heart to heart and soul to soul. And even if it's cards, coffee, or any of these other things, there is something that opens a path of connection and bond, of knowing that we're not alone, knowing that we are supported and cared for. So again, in your life, what is one area you need to just soften yourself a little? And what is one area where that you need to make time to socialize and just connect with the people that are important to you? It's so easy to put it off, but it's important to take time for those connections. And the final one, okay, so we got strong back, soft front, and now it's wild heart. To me, having a wild heart is about embracing all of the experiences of life. Sometimes we only want to embrace the good stuff, the happy stuff, the sunny days, but we got to embrace all the rainy days and all the other things in between that go. The life has ups and downs, and it has ins and outs, it has all kinds of different experiences. But life is just as much a wonderful thing when we're on the mountaintop celebrating a victory and when we're curled up in the fetal position under our bed and crying. Life is always a miracle. And to have a wild heart means to have an open heart, a heart that's willing to risk, a heart that's willing to feel, a heart that's willing to care at all times, even if it might hurt once in a while or we get disappointed. It's to live open-heartedly and wholeheartedly. It says a wild heart is awake to the pain of the world and yet doesn't diminish our own pain. A wild heart is joyful and grateful and doesn't diminish the struggle of the world or see joy in the world and doesn't diminish our own struggle. And so it's a recognition of all the things going on in the world and ourselves and not diminishing any of it, but to acknowledge all of it, to feel and celebrate all of it, to navigate and manage all of it. And she said one of the most important things for us is to connect with and have shared moments, shared collective moments of experiencing with people, because shared collective moments allows us to express ourselves, but then also move beyond ourselves to something great. Like yesterday's membership class was such a fabulous experience of a shared moment. People opened their hearts and shared the difference that Unity's made, how they feel at home. They finally found a place that understands them or resonates with how they believe. It was so touching and moving. We had a shared, amazing moment yesterday. This kid, Cody Lee, for America's Got Talent, I see that kid and I cry all the time. I'm still crying. I was watching him last night bowling. And just watching this kid, he's blind and autistic, and he won this thing, and just seeing everybody cheering for him and going wild, it crosses all lines, and all you do is feel the humanity and love and care and inspiration from this kid. No one's worrying about anything else other than feeling the moment. Even if it was on television, I felt connected to that experience and that kid and his talent. In August, I went to my family. My family's, I got 10 kids, 5 boys, 5 girls. We celebrated our 50th anniversary of moving from Trinidad to Hamilton, Ontario. And we had this huge celebration. My parents didn't have a lot of money, and when my grandfather died in '72, we didn't have enough money for even like a headstone or even a thing to mark it. And so we bought a headstone, engraved it, and had a little ceremony. We hadn't even been back at that cemetery since, and it was an incredible thing. We had this tours of all the houses we used to live. We went to every single house and took photos of all the houses. Some of the people got a little offended. We went into the living room, but I was thinking, it's a celebration. But anyway, my brother and his girlfriend celebrated their 30th anniversary. They're thinking in a couple years they might get engaged. They don't want to rush into anything. And so, for real, they have outlasted at least 4 marriages by being a boyfriend and girlfriend. Who knows? But anyway, the experience was so bonding and so fun. We went to places that we took pictures of 50 years ago at the City Hall and took pictures in the exact spots. We tried to get into most of the positions we were in, but at this stage, we couldn't get into all, but we did our best. But it was a shared moment that was incredible. Sometimes I go to sports events. I went to a World Series game. It was in Kansas City. I flew back there. It was so good to be with my brother, some family. But what was so cool is I'm pulling for the Kansas City Royals, and everybody who's pulling for the Giants, and yet the national anthem plays, and everybody's happy to be there. It's like, it doesn't matter you're pulling for different teams. There's a shared bond and experience of just being together and the excitement And we need to remember those moments. We have those moments. We need to stop and treasure them. I watch a flash mob. Those things are so cool. Strangers suddenly dancing all over the place. And people are looking on, they're tapping their toes, they're inspired. And there's shared moments of that going on all the time. 1912, Emil Durkheim coined the phrase collective effervescence. He said, it is the magic that happens when we experience connectedness, communal emotion. It creates a sensation of sacredness, of being a part of something greater than ourselves. This, in my opinion, is collective effervescence, that we are creating something together. Even if we all don't talk to each other, we're experiencing some magic together, creating some magic together. Here's the interesting thing. It's not just shared moments of joy, but it's also shared moments of pain that connect us and remind us of our humanity, remind us how we're one, remind us how we're all looking for love. The things from 9/11 to shootings, when people get together and hold hands and cry and have prayer vigils, when they bring flowers and just share and listen, there's a healing, there's a connecting that goes on. It is powerful when we collectively experience joy and or pain, and we share it together. It brings our humanity out. No one's asking what your ideology is. Nobody cares about anything like that. Because at the core, we are one. But we need to remember it because there are things dividing and polarizing us all the time that we could buy into. And that's why we need to have these experiences within ourselves and to celebrate it among ourselves. Joseph Campbell once said, most people think they're looking for the meaning of life, but they're not. What we're all looking for is an experience of being fully alive. And to me, being vulnerable, opening your heart, and seeking a level of connection and belonging and being true to ourselves, that's what being fully alive is all about. And are there risks? Absolutely. But is it worth it? Absolutely. It'd be lovely to think we can just get rid of all our problems just like that. Or we could welcome them, embrace them, utilize them, and transform them to create a greater sense of belonging. It would be great if we chose to consciously brave the wilderness and choose to live our lives with a strong back, soft front, and wild heart. God bless you, everybody.